In today's video, we're checking out the Smallrig RC 60C RGB LED video light. While this looks small, it features a wide range of color modes and effects, and it's bright enough to use in a range of different situations and setups. This light can be fully controlled via a smartphone app, or of course you can use the controls on the unit itself. Let's get into it. Welcome back, folks. My name's Shane. In today's video, we're checking out this light pack from the folks over at Smallrig. This is their RC 60C rechargeable light that you saw in the intro, and Smallrig also sent out their RAD30 mini parabolic softbox. A bit hard to say. This is a great light combo for folks looking for a portable lighting solution, or of course you can use it in the studio thanks to its USB-C power delivery option for unlimited use. This particular pack is the pack 4810, and this includes a whole bunch of additional accessories, excluding the softbox here. This will set you back $229, but if you just want to get a more simple light pack, it will set you back $179 US. This softbox is an additional $49 and it's well worth it, and we'll talk about this coming right up. This video is both a hands-on review of this pack and a tutorial, so if you've just got this particular lighting setup, I'll show you all the different modes, how the app works, and try some practical tests coming up. Now this video might be quite long, so I'll timestamp all the sections down in the description box if you want to skip ahead to a particular portion of this video. Just a quick disclaimer before we get going, a huge thank you to Smallrig for sending out this pack to the channel. I really appreciate it. Just to let you know, all thoughts about this are my own, and I'll give you my thoughts about it at the end. If you'd like to check it out, I'll link it down below. If this video is helpful, please drop a thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and we'll get into it right now. Here we go. Let's take a quick look at this LED light. Not only is this small, it's also very light, coming in at only 700 grams, and I'll put the conversion on screen if you live overseas. I love the fact that there's a color LCD screen on the side that's easy to see, and two main dials that double as buttons. You can push them in for quick selection in various menus. While this is very easy to control via the SmallGoGo app, which is a super cool name, you can still use the controls on the unit to set it up manually. The Smallrig RC 60C has active cooling, so you're able to run it non-stop on power and not have any issues with overheating, which is nice. Now, speaking of power, on the back over here we have a USB-C port for power delivery. It comes with a 3-meter long USB-C cable, but there's no power brick, so you'll need to get one of those, and I'll leave my recommendation down in the description box. The charging time took just under 2 hours from 0% battery. It was dead flat, it wouldn't power on, all the way to 100%. I found it interesting that anytime you charge this, even with the switch set to off, the active cooling kicks in, which I'm not a huge fan of. I'm not sure how I feel about this, because even once it reaches 100%, the fan is still spinning. I would have liked an option to disable this somewhere in the settings, but it's not a deal breaker. But if you plan on leaving this plugged in for studio use, you may need to hard power it off at the wall or unplug it completely if it's not in use for several days. Otherwise, the fan will just stay on. The fan noise on this unit is not loud enough to ruin any type of audio, whether using shotgun microphones or a lav or wireless system like mine. Battery runtime on this unit will vary depending on the mode you're using. The LCD screen on the side will update the estimated battery life as soon as you switch between modes and brightness settings. Running this light in CCT mode on 1% brightness will give you an estimated maximum runtime of 13 hours. If you're running it at 100%, you'll see the runtime adjust to 70 minutes or so. 50% brightness is rated for 1.4 hours. There's also an eco button on the back here, which is the economy mode of the light for maximum runtime. Let's cover what we get in the box. We get a rock and carry bag that holds all of the accessories, which is this one right here. And it's a good quality bag with decent zip strength as well, which is always appreciated. We get the RC60 LED light right here. We get a 3-meter USB-C cable, which is great. I'm glad it's long enough to use on a light stand and still reach the floor. This is awesome. We also get a mini reflector here. This is a light modifier which makes the light insanely bright and focused, and we'll test this out in just a moment. And to put this into perspective, having the reflector on with the light at 10% brightness is the same as having the light on with this softbox on at 100%. So this is insanely bright. Included, there's a light stand adapter that will mount onto any light stand, so you can angle the light in different directions. There's also a standard handle in here as well if you plan on doing any sort of run and gun filmmaking where someone will be using the light handheld. This pack also comes with a battery bank clamp, so you can hook this directly onto the back of the light. and then you can power it on the go, which is cool. And they've also included a small 20cm USB-C cable if you're going to be shooting in that particular scenario. Overall, this pack has everything you need except for the softbox, so let's check it out. This softbox is a great addition to the setup. Not only is the build quality excellent, but if you're coming from some of those cheap, no-name eBay or Amazon softboxes which fall apart and are hard to set up, this is the exact opposite. The softbox folds out and locks into place easily and won't collapse unless you want it to. To collapse the softbox, all you need to do is push on both of these clamps and it will fold straight down. How great is that? Connecting this to the light couldn't be more simple. All you have to do is align a couple of the little hooks here into place, turn it, and you're good to go. To release it, all you need to do is push down on this latch on the side that's next to the Smallrig logo, turn it, and it will come right off. Now, I've been fortunate enough to test out a few expensive lights and softboxes over the years, and this is one of the best softboxes I've tested, hands down. The Smallrig softbox also comes with its very own carry bag for easy transportation or storage. And for 49 bucks, this is an absolute no-brainer to add to your kit. Let me give you a rundown of how to operate this lamp. So the power switch is on the back, we've got to click that on, and then turn this dial here, the intensity dial, and this will turn the light on. This is a secondary safety mechanism. So say for example, this is in your bag, you don't want it accidentally just turning on as soon as you click on the switch. You've got to rotate the dial, which means you've got to turn it on with intention. I like this, especially if it's in the back seat of your car or in the trunk or boot of your car, whatever the case may be. It's not going to power on accidentally, or at least it's less likely to do so. Let's take a look at the Small GoGo app, and this will allow you to connect to the lamp really easily and change all of the different modes on the fly. So you'll add equipment by tapping on the top left, and then when you add it, it will come up on screen. Then just simply tap on the unit that's listed, and then you're good to go. And now I can change pretty much everything. So this is CCT mode. This is your standard color temperatures, and if I just bring the winder to the left, it's going to change it to 2500 Kelvin, and we can go all the way up to 10,000 Kelvin, which is that really sort of cool light, or anywhere in between. If you're just getting started, start with it somewhere around 5600 Kelvin. That's your standard daylight temperature. It's what I'm using on most of the lamps here in the studio, except for the ones behind me and this one, but most of them in here are this light color. So it should pretty much match everything that you're seeing on screen. So this is great. Now we've got a brightness slider down here as well, and this can get really bright. I'm going to show you how bright it can go just by pointing it at the back. And this is with the diffusion filter on as well. So that's 100% brightness, and this is down to 39 and obviously off. So it's making a huge difference here in the room already. I'm just going to bring it up to 10%. You can see just how much fill I've got in this particular scene. Now there's also a hue option as well, so if you want to lean more towards green, you can do so, or more towards magenta. And I should point out at the bottom of this particular option, you can turn on and off the lamp by using the power button on the app, which I really like as well. And if you want, you can save a preset. Say you want it to save like at a particular color temperature, you can name it whatever you want, and you can just recall it nice and simply. Over to HSI mode, which is a really powerful and quick way of getting your preferred background color. This is especially helpful if you've got an LED light behind you or whatever in the scene, or if you just want to, get some really cool photographs with different lighting. You can just simply move your thumb around in this color space here, this color wheel, and the light will change instantly. And if you want, of course, you can save your own preset. Let's take a look at some of the built-in effects, starting with paparazzi. You can see it flashing away over here. So there's two different sliders on this particular control. One is the intensity, so if we want it less busy in terms of its flashing, we can bring that top slider down. And then there's also a brightness option here as well. So you can see just how bright this is. It's full on, man. It's really full on. We've got one called fireworks, which is gonna, act like fireworks in the sky. This would be great for maybe pointing into a house outside, through a window if you want to replicate that kind of look. Good for short films. Over to lightning, which is one of my favorite effects. I always say this, but it's absolutely true. Lightning always looks good in short films. And look at that, it does the job. We've got faulty bulb as well. There you go. So that's great for horror movies. Over to TV, which is going to replicate a TV being on in the room. This is another good one if you just want to point it against a wall for a short film. Over to party, which is going to cycle through the RGB. Now, if you want to slow it down, just simply use the top slider. You can see it's changing far slower now, and if we want to bring it all the way up, it's quite crazy right there. So there, 31% brightness is plenty bright, at least here in the studio. We've got flame. Looks good. It's to replicate a fireplace or a candle. Breath. Let's bring this up. Okay, so it's just like basically a pulse at a different speed there. Flickering, which is not great if you're epileptic. CCT cycle, which is going to cycle through the colors of the CCT spectrum, which I showed you earlier. So you can see it's gone to a cooler color now, and it will just keep cycling through. We've got RGB cycle, which is one of my favorites just for adding some atmosphere to a shot. It looks pretty cool, cycling through all the RGB options. And we've got police car. Again, if you're shooting a short film, you can point this from outside inside and it will give you a look of a police car out in the field. Let's say, for example, you like this faulty bulb effect, but you want it to be a cooler color, which it's just a little bit too warm right now. I'm going to use this dial right here to click through the options until it gets over to the one that I want, which is this one. Then I'm going to change this and bring it up. So that's as warm as it goes, but we're going to bring this all the way up to about 7,000 or so, which should give us a nice cool look. And this will be really great for replicating that faulty bulb, you know, in a sort of clinical sense. So let's see how it goes now. There it goes. So you can change the color temperature. I just haven't found a way to do it with the app itself. This would be something I'd love to see just built into the effects option. Let's try this color card option, which is essentially like gel. So I can instantly switch between colors just by tapping on these options. If I want to change the intensity level, I can. And then I'll save a preset and then I can recall it nice and simply. Because if I don't, and then I go back to say the first one, which is 204, it goes back to 100% brightness every time. So again, I can bring it down to 30% almost, switch between different options and it goes to 100% every time. So I'm not sure if this is a bug or they wanted it to work like this, but I would have loved to have seen it not change the intensity level as I cycle through each of these. But so just some small feedback there to Smallrig, as this is both a guide and also a review. Let's go over to the Roscoe one here. And as you can see, I can just simply cycle through these colors as well. And this is a really handy way of just picking something that you might like without having to sort of dive through HSI mode. All right, over to one of the coolest things ever, and that's color picker mode. Now the cool thing with this is you can essentially pick a color from a different lamp. So once you enable this, I can just go to this lamp over here, take a photo, use photo, and then I can pick the light color, save it. I'm going to call this one my LED. And the beauty of this is it allows you to store a preset on the lamp, which then I can turn up and down. So this will now match the overhead light here in the studio, which is awesome. You can also simply pick a color from any photo that's already on your phone, or if you take another one and the light will change instantly. So it'll go into RGB mode if it needs to, or of course you can match it to any other lamp in the room. Now when it comes to the technical brightness of this lamp, and I would assume that's without the diffusion filter, it's rated at 2,430 lux when you're running it at 6,900 Kelvin. Let's try that right now. So we'll go to 6,900, which should be right around here. Oh, I just skipped past it, right about there. And we're going to crank this up to 100%. And it is bright. You can see it's completely blowing out the shot right now. If I put on the background, it's way overpowering my background LED. So yeah, it's super bright. And this is with the diffusion filter on. I do have the diffusion filter that I showed you earlier on. Take that off, it's going to get even brighter. Or of course, you can use the reflector. The color rendering index or CRI rating of these lamps come in at 96 plus, which is considered very accurate. So if you do have even a higher end lamp than this should match almost perfectly when it comes to its color accuracy. Now, if you don't plan on using your phone, or if you just want to quickly access a different mode, there's a mode button directly here, which is a hardware key. All you have to do is push it and it will cycle through all the different modes I just showed you by using the app. You can see on screen over here that it says Eco, and this is its economy mode, which allows you to get the most amount of battery life. You can turn it off just by hitting the Eco button on the back over here if you want to turn it on or off. It's just right there. Let's try this lamp out now in a few practical situations. I've got it just out of reach right now, currently off. I'm using my cold bore light at the back of the studio here as my primary fill light. So let's switch it over to the Smallrig. Over to the Smallrig lamp at 6,900 Kelvin at 5% brightness. Again, it's just out of arm's reach here. Can you see a huge difference? Let's switch it back. And back to the cold bore, I've got all the settings set exactly the same, so hopefully they look pretty similar. And back to the Smallrig, at least looking at my reference monitor over here, it looks very similar. And again, I've got the wattage on just enough that you can see it. This is how the same shot looks now without the fill light. And again, with the light back on, and as you can see, it just fills in a really nice amount of light on my face. I've turned all the primary lights off in the studio, so this big LED panel is off and the two front ones are also off. I've got this little fill light on just over here to fill in my face. I'm using the Smallrig at 50% brightness with both diffusion filters on. And this is at a distance now of about 1.5 meters. So it's quite bright at 50%, enough to get a really moody look like this. Or of course you could bring it forward and then just turn down the intensity level. But I want to see how bright this can go. So let's move it back a bit and crank it all the way up. And now I've got the lamp running at 100% brightness, about twice as far away. As you can see from the B camera, it's in front of my Pixel P80 lamp, which I normally use for my primary light source. And it's plenty bright here in the studio. If I was to turn on my regular fill lamp, you're starting to see the studio come alive. So what I'm going to do now is just turn on the left lamp in the studio here and see how it looks, and it looks like it should. I think the takeaway message here is if you plan on using this in the studio as a primary light source, you can probably get away with it as long as you've got at least two of them. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you're wondering how bright the reflector is, it's so bright at 10% brightness, it actually looks brighter than the diffusion filter on with the lamp at 100%, but I can't even look over there, it's so bright. I'm going to turn on the front LED over here, and this should be giving me a very similar look to what you saw at the start of the video. So you can absolutely use this as a primary light source with the reflector, but it's so bright. And again, I think diffused light, it just makes your whole life a lot better when you're filming for long periods of time. Lastly, I'm going to show you how to use this as a background LED. So I've got my regular light back here. I'm just going to turn this off, and I've got the Smallrig light set to 3% brightness with a hue of 224, which should be a very similar color. And this is plenty bright just to fill some color out on your set from wherever you angle it. So again, you can use this with or without the softbox, or of course with the reflector. Let's wrap this video up. I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on the Smallrig RC 60C. Now, there's only one thing that I've had an issue with this, and that's that the Bluetooth connectivity can get confused. So I've had to sort of reset this a few times throughout the entirety of this video because the rest of my LED panels in here run on Bluetooth. So if you're using this as your only Bluetooth device, it works fine. I powered everything off, I tested it, and then it worked flawlessly. But when I have my other Bluetooth lights on and connected to my phone, it has a really hard time sort of staying connected. So just keep that in mind. It will really depend on your setup. But if you're using conventional softboxes, or if this is your only light, or a pair of these, or 3 or 4 of them, you're not going to have a problem. But I just want to mention that ahead of this review. My only other small complaint here is that the active cooling fans stay on when you're charging, even with the light off. I would have much preferred that to just be passive, but it is what it is. So you can make your mind up whether or not that's a deal breaker. The interface is nice and simple. The app is also excellent. I have no problems recommending that in terms of its functionality. There's just a few minor things that I don't love about it. The fact that if you change gels, it goes back to 100% every time. I would have loved to have seen that just stay at whatever intensity level the last one was at. But these are minor complaints. This is definitely worth mentioning. But overall though, this is a very versatile lamp. And if you pair this with a second one, it'll be bright enough to light up a set like this from the front. But you're gonna have to crank up the power a little bit, especially if you're gonna be using this, which I can highly recommend. This is so good. This is one of the best softboxes I've used. It locks into place beautifully. We get a couple of different diffusion filters here. It's all Velcro, so it's nice and easy to add or pull out different sections as you go. But this is really high quality and I can highly recommend it. The reflector also just makes the lamp so bright and it will definitely be bright enough to focus light in a particular direction. Or if you want to run it on lower power with this, you can do so. There's always that option as well. But the RGB modes on this are awesome. If you like to shoot short films, you'll have plenty of different effects to choose from. And anytime I shoot a short film, I'm always using the lightning or faulty bulb effect because I like horror movies. But anyway, this is great. I really like it. Massive thanks to the folks from Smallrig for setting this out. Just keep in mind, if you do have other Bluetooth devices and lights in the room, it can get a little confused and it will drop out. It'll force you to kind of reconnect everything from scratch. But with everything else off and just testing the Bluetooth connectivity, it worked fine here in the studio. Thanks again for watching. My name's Shane and I will catch you on the next one. See ya.